everyone. So now let's talk about the fourth process, which is the create WBS. Last process of in the planning phase of the scope management knowledge area, and I would say after collect requirement, this is another important process where you will get lots of questions. So I would say somewhere around 10 questions you might expect from this particular process. Very important, so just stay tuned with me. So create WBS, by WBS I'm referring to work breakdown structure. And if you remember, I briefly discussed about this in the integration management knowledge area where we were doing the direct and managed project work, where we were converting those work packages into the into the deliverables which are required to be done as a part of direct and managed project work. But what were those work packages? This is where we will define those work packages. This is where we will discuss about those work packages. So if you it's a tree based structure, it's a hierarchical based structure, and think from from the perspective that you are constructing a house. So if you're constructing a house, what are the different things you will need? Okay, so you probably would need some kind of planning. Then you would also discuss about the design, then building, then inspection, then closing. So you have lot of different things. So the first line, the first node would have a high level description, and then you will go into much more detail. Like design would have like brief blueprints as an example, then site plan, project management. Building would have the foundation, the frame, the roof, all of those would come under the building. Inspection, you will have electrical, plumbing, customer. So all of those would be part of this. So this is like a tree based hierarchical structure which is known as the work breakdown structure. So it is something which will actually give you a framework of what needs to be developed. Not all the organizations follow this process. They don't create the work breakdown structure, but I would say for exam perspective and from PMI perspective, you should pay more concentration on this. This is an important one, and I'd say, as mentioned earlier, a lot of questions from this create WBS process. It's part of planning process group. This process of subdividing deliverables and project work into smaller, more manageable components. So why this is important is, when I divide my project work into deliverables, uh, this helps me. Like for example, I can say that, right, this blueprints I was referring about. Okay, Mr. A, you are responsible for the blueprints. Okay, Miss B, you are responsible for the foundation. So what I am doing when I have a defined layout set, I can assign these deliverables to my team, and then I can ask them. I can actually give them the cost also. Like blueprints should something not more than, let's say, $100, something like that. So or they can come up with an estimate and tell me that one blueprint should be something which not should be more than $80 or something like that, right? So this is making my project more and more manageable. It's easier for me because I'm assigning these deliverables to my team, and I can keep a track of it. Like if I want to know the status of blueprint, I'll go to Mr. A. If I want to know the status of a foundation, I'll probably go to Miss B, right? So this is an important one, I would say. Let's see what all things are there in WBS. Hub. This is known as the hub of the project. So hub, when I say the hub means combination, like everything included. So if it is in WBS, this means it's part of the project. If it's not in the WBS, this means it's not a part of the project. So remember WBS as like the hub, as the 100% scope, contains everything that is in scope. If it is not in WBS, then it should not be delivered. So you need to make sure that whatever deliverables you have, you are properly documenting them in the form of WBS. It helps them make the project more manageable. So definitely it's a help for you as a project manager. It's help for me because I know that Mr. A or Miss B are the people who are working on these deliverables, and if I want to know the status of these, I'll probably go and talk to them about it. Let's see what the ITTOs entails. So first we have the inputs. On the input side, we have the project management plan. Of course, scope management plan is actually one of the input for this process. So how we will create the WBS, that would be part of the scope management plan. Then we have few project documents, EF, OPS are the common one. Tools, we have expert judgment and decomposition, and outputs will have the scope baseline and the document updates. So let's see what are the inputs in much more details. And again, remember, you need to ask this question once you are done watching, this video. Go back and take your IT2 sheet with you. Ask this question to yourself: that why do I think scope management plan is an important input here? Why do I think that the scope statement or the requirements documentation is an important input here? Ask this question. And of course, if you have doubt, reach out to me, go to our blog, post that question on the comment, or send me an email directly. Just and wait for the answer. If you need to explain and set up a call, I'll be more than happily. I would happily do that. So let's see, on the input side, we have the scope management plan, which will tell me how the WBS should be created. So the plan is all about how this should be done is part of the scope management plan, and then only I can go into detail and talk about the WBS and develop the WBS. As far as the project document are concerned, we have the project scope statement. I want to make sure that I'm decomposing my requirements from the requirements documentation, which is another document, which another input, into the deliverables which are part of the project. If it is not part of the project, I don't want to decompose that, right? And this information is something which is coming from the scope statement, which is telling me, first of all, it's also telling me the deliverables which I needed in WBS, and secondly, it's making sure that I'm considering the project exclusions in that. Then OP update, sometimes the organization process assets and the EF, sometimes some previous projects have already done the WBS, so I might use that template in for my project, so I can use that. Sometimes organization culture, if your organization is heavily dependent on PMI processes, I'm pretty sure then they would definitely be using this create WBS process. So again, for some organizations, I work for an organization where they have never heard about this term WBS. I was the one who actually introduced it. So again, it all depends from your organization to organization. Let's see the tools and techniques. So first we have the expert judgment. My friend who told me to buy the car. So I wanted to make a customized car, and I developed the major components of it. I provided a framework and structure. So he's the one who actually helped me to make that framework as well, to make that hierarchical structure, the WBS. So he could be the one who can help me out in the WBS creation as well. Decomposition, I would say decomposition is an important tool over here, and out of the two, like the expert judgment was already a common one, so this is something which is important. So let's see what is there. So breaking down the scope into progressively smaller and more manageable components. So this is the tool which is helping you to break down those requirements into manageable components. So basically, WBS is all about making the project more manageable. This process ends when the scope is broken down into work packages. So the lowest level of your tree is the work packages. I'll show you in some time, but just remember, the lowest level of the tree is known as the work packages. The decomposition process is carried out in the following manner. So how this decomposition done? So first of all, we identify what are the requirements we need to decompose, what are the deliverables out of those. Once it is identified, then we provide a structure. We organize that. Okay, so this feature, this is something which comes under the security. This feature, this is something which comes under the luxury part. So again, we define those features into and provide a structure. Then we decompose the upper level WBS node into lower level detailed nodes. So as I'm going more and more detailed, lower, I'm going into more and more detailed analysis, detailed nodes. And that's why we call the lowest level, the lowest node of the tree as the work package. Then we will assign the identification codes. Now I need to make sure that I have certain codes defined in that, so that I can assign those identification codes to my team member, so that I can go back and ask to Mr. A or Ms. B that what is the status of that particular node, of that particular deliverable. And then of course, our quality team or myself as a project manager, it's my job to make sure that I need to verify those as well. So we have to verify whether the team is doing the good work or not. What is the status on those deliverables? Okay, so let's see the output section. So first we have the scope baseline. So baseline is the original plan plus all approved changes. Keep one thing in mind. Baseline is always about approved changes. Oh, sorry, original plan plus any approved changes to that. Once your baseline is established, then is the time you would always and always would have to follow the change control process. If your baseline is not established, you will not follow the change control process. So again, once it is made, you have to follow the change control process, which we actually defined it in the perform integrated change control process. If you don't understand, if you still have questions, please, I repeat, just after this video you are done, go back to the integration management and watch that video. Why I keep pressing on that video is because it contains around 15 to 20 questions and you need to be very careful about that. Then we have project document updates. We'll have the assumption log, requirements documentation, all of those would also be updated. As far as the scope baseline is concerned, it has 4 things are part of it, I would say. I'm sorry, 5 things. First, we have the approved version of the project scope statement. So your approved project scope statement will be part of the baseline. Then you will have the WBS, the hierarchical tree, the work packages I have been talking, which is actually a part of WBS only. Then we have planning package, again a part of WBS would also be there. And then this is a separate document, which is our WBS dictionary, which will define in much more detail what all things are part of WBS. So let's first see these WBS, the critical output we have. So as the name suggests, it's a graphical hierarchical chart representing all of the work to be performed on the project. So it's all of the work which is required to be done on the project. That's your WBS. And if you see, this is an example of the work breakdown structure. So customize new car. This was our project I have been explaining, since beginning, and I have divided into different sections. So first section basically is my control account. Then on the bottom we have the planning packages. So planning package is actually a part of the control account. And finally, if I decompose the planning package into much more detailed level, then I get the work package. So if you see this last one, the lowest node is known as the work package. So this is our work package. So first of all, WBS is the project hub. I've already discussed about this, that it's known as the project hub. It's also known as the 100% scope. The WBS is one of the most important component of the project management plan, since so many other components use it or refer back to it. So if you remember, scope baseline is actually part of your project management plan, and this WBS is part of the scope baseline. So this actually is a child of the project management plan. So WBS is the child and the father is your project management plan. It's always deliverable based. If you see, I've made sure that these are the deliverable based, like the car, the structure, the design, the project management itself, that's all are deliverables. Like computer, you would need the engine for that. All of those are deliverables. It does not include tasks/activities. So I've specifically mentioned this line that I'm talking about, that it does not include tasks/activities. A lot of people get confused that WBS is telling me what are the different tasks. But this is not tasks. I'm just telling you that I need the bodywork on my car. I need a good music system. So all of these are deliverables. These are not tasks. How I will get a good body shell, or how I will get a good music system, those are tasks. Those are activities, which is something which we would be covering in the schedule management, not now, when we define the activities. Activities, tasks are done in schedule management and not in WBS. WBS is actually at a work package level, which is the lowest level. When we decompose the work package into activities, that is something which we would be doing in the schedule management knowledge area, not now. Then if you see the lowest level on the work package, this is the WBS. So work package represents a complete list of work to be done on the project. So it's at the lowest level. So basically your team would be concentrating on this work package. They are small enough so that they may be estimate for time and cost. And then I can say that, okay, work package A, Mr. A, you are responsible for it. So this is Mr. A job, this is Miss B job, this is Miss C job, this is Mr. D's job. So I'm I'm assigning these work packages to my team members. And then from them, if I have a question, I'll probably reach out to them to give me the updates on them. It will be part of control accounts. Each work package is associated with single control account. So if you see this, the topmost line is our control account. So what is a control account? It's actually a, it comes with a unique identifier which helps in hierarchical summation of cost, schedule, and resource information. So I would say that, okay, my team lead, Robin, she is the one who is responsible for control account A. So now whatever work packages which are there in that particular control account, I would reach out to Robin to make sure that she knows what we are doing, and she will tell me that, and she probably might reach out to the team and work with them to make sure that this is on track. I will reach out to Robin and ask, okay, what are the estimated cost, or what is the actual cost she has spent on those. Like for example, if you see if you see this particular control account, let's say this is something which Robin is responsible for this. In this, you have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 work packages included in this. And then I can say that, okay, this is something which would be $10. This is something which would be $20. Then the third one should be, let's say, $30. So this is something which is $30. So if I add 30 plus 20 plus 10 is like, $60. So this work package to the planning package 2.3 will be for $60. Similarly, let's say this is for $20. This one would be sum of ABC, and this one would be independent. So I'm combining this. What I'm doing, I'm actually using a bottom-up approach. I'm assigning the work package to a team member. I'm assigning a cost to those work packages so that it can give me a logical sum that how much my project will charge me. That's a work package, the lowest level of each node. Okay, then we also discussed the planning package, which I could say the mid-level package between the control account and the work package. So control account includes the planning packages. It does not include the scheduling activities. So what happens? What is this planning package? So sometimes what happens is that your customer is confused. They don't really know what they really want. So what they will do is they'll help you. They'll give you the requirements at a certain level. So based upon that certain level, you will create the WBS, but at a planning package level. But as the things will progress, as more and more information will become available, then you would come back to that particular planning package, and then you would further decompose that planning package into work packages. So you do that all the time. This is a pretty common technique. The second document we have, which was another output, was the WBS Dictionary, which is a companion document to the work breakdown structure. So similarly, if you see what we did in the requirements document, we took the requirements and we described that requirements into much more detail in the scope statement. Similarly, whatever deliverables which are mentioned in your WBS would now be described in much more detail in the WBS Dictionary. As the name suggests, it's dictionary. So whatever elements you have in the WBS, you are describing those things into detail. So it provides a place for supplemental information about each node on the WBS, such as the person to whom the work is assigned, estimates for time and cost, and other different nodes. So these are some of like code of account identifier, description, assumption, constraint, responsible organization, schedule milestones. All of those are actually part of your WBS Dictionary. Make sure that when you are reading the PMBOK, you are actually going through all of the bullet points of WBS Dictionary. You may get a lot of questions from this, And same thing, which of the following is part of WBS, or you might get the not questions, which I say like which of the following is not part of WBS dictionary. So you should know what are the different things which are part of these documents. Okay, let's do a quick revision. So what all things we discussed? Focus your efforts on thoroughly understanding the WBS dictionary and the scope baseline. Remember, the baseline is your original plan plus any approved changes to that. And the scope baseline contains four things. First, we discussed the approved scope statement, then we got the WBS, then we also got the WBS dictionary, then we also got the planning package. All of those were actually part of your scope baseline. Important question, which of the following is part of scope baseline or which of the following is not part of scope baseline? Know that the WBS is created primarily by decomposing the scope and using template of other WBS charts. So yes, that's why we say OPA is an important input here, because you go back to your organization process asset, you take those templates and you use it again, you reuse it for your project so that you can avoid the time on creating the structure. Of course, the information might be different, but at least it can give you a template and a structure on how to proceed ahead. Know that the WBS is graphical, hierarchical, and hub of the project. And another thing you can say, an 100% scope. This is another keyword for WBS. Be aware of what a work package is and that it is the lowest level of WBS. And the planning package is one level above the work package, and control account is one level above the planning package. So this is how it is created. Okay, so this marks the completion of create WBS process. Next, we would be discussing the validate scope process, but we will do that in a different video. Okay, thank you.